Well, human life is a very complicated thing. I'm glad to see all of you. During the lecture, songs will also be played, because I like you to relax during the lecture, not just listen to my instructions, but also experience some happiness sometimes. And I'm answering your questions. I allow myself to talk to a person very seriously. Sometimes I don't, because I see a person has come to the lecture for the first time, one won't be able to hear. Or let's say a person really wants to ask me something, which means one won't be able to listen, so I sometimes don't communicate with them either. But next time I'll talk to you, you'll calm down a little bit. This is all necessary to understand everything more deeply, so that our knowledge settles deeply and we can develop further in this way. Today we are talking about family life. This is the most difficult topic in life, and until a person has figured out this topic, it's pointless trying to figure out anything else, because a person experiences the most significant difficulties and sufferings in their personal life. Because close relationships also bring a lot of pain. If, let's say, someone stepped on my foot in a train or called me four eyes, I wouldn't be very offended, because that person is a stranger and doesn't know me. But if someone dear says something hurtful, then it will be very painful because they know me. Therefore, whenever we establish close relationships, there is always room for pain. This should be foreseen, understood in advance that it will be like this. Strangers will not torment us. Our own close ones will torment us. This is how this world is arranged. We can't do anything about it. And we'll start with the fact that there are some basics of human psychology. There are some foundations for fate, for life, which at least I rely on in my lectures and conversations. Because I understood this myself from my mentors in due time, and I would like to talk about this first, so that later it would be clearer why it's like this. For example, the Vedas. I rely on the Vedas, although I respect and love all the scriptures very much, including the Bible, the Quran, the Torah, and so on. I've studied many of them, but not as deeply as those people who immerse themselves in them seriously. I just studied to some extent to understand that everything is unified, that God is everywhere, and each scripture is worthy of the highest respect. And especially, I believe that we should respect the culture that is here on this land, on Russian soil, the Orthodox culture. Because trying to tell people something and not respecting what they have is, at the very least, ignorance, bad manners. People live here in the bosom of Orthodox culture. It's very deep, and for example, there's a scripture that describes how to live in relationships in a family, and I found no discrepancies there with what I understand. Well, anyway, I told myself I wouldn't rely on those scriptures that I don't fully know. I don't have mentors to explain them, and therefore I don't cite, for example, quotes from the Bible, because I'm not qualified to do so. Although in principle I know many of these sayings, and I mentioned them a couple of times, then I received feedback on the internet that I should calm down on this issue. So the Vedas explain that the human psyche is not a combination of nerve impulses. It's a real subtle energy body. Well, that means it's a body that doesn't disappear, doesn't die when our physical body dies. Let's say we have an anatomical structure, it dies. It is born, it dies, but the psychic structure, the human psyche, does not die. It continues to live on. You'll say, well, how do you know? Well, gradually, when you study this question, no doubts remain, and there are reasons to know this. There is an opportunity to know this. There is a lot of evidence. But we won't delve too deeply into this direction now because we'll lose time. We have another main topic. In the human psyche, there are three main structural elements. I relied on one of these elements when I was talking to the girl about her family and explained that there is such a concept as self-esteem. This is a part of the human psyche, and knowing how it works is very important in relationships because if you don't know, you can fall into a trap. Speaking of the most important thing, the Vedas explain that there is such a part of the psychic structure called the mind, or manas in Sanskrit. These words even sound alike. Manas in Sanskrit, or mind. It's the same thing. But in our conversations, in our understanding, we consider the mind correctly, that the mind thinks there is a smart person and there is an intelligent one. Smart is, as we say, a know-it-all. This is someone who knows a lot, has a lot of knowledge. That means information is in the mind. Thoughts are in the mind. Mood is in a person's mind. This is all correct. So our understanding of this word corresponds to the scriptures that describe all this, but the scriptures say that the concept of mind is much broader than what we understand, because there are also subtle energy channels in the mind. There are subtle energy channels that work and help our physical body. There are subtle energy channels that help the psyche to live. And those subtle energy channels that help the psyche, they also go outside and connect us with the people around us. As the song goes, for the sake of higher love, we are obliged to remember that our loved ones are connected to us for life by an invisible thread. Our loved ones are connected to us by an invisible thread. And you need to know that this is not an allegory. Such a connection really exists, and when, for example, a mother worries about her child when one is sick, it means that she lacks the inner strength to help her child. And if a mother doesn't worry about her child when one is sick, it means she has enough inner strength to help, and it means that she will help the child. Raise your hand, ladies, who are worried about their child's health now. This means you lack the strength to help. You need to seek strength from somewhere else. Raise your hand, those who are not worried now. Your child is sick, but you're not worried. It means you have enough strength. It means the illness is not so severe. You see, knowledge about the existence of a connection immediately gives you the opportunity to decide what to do, whether to fuss or not. This subtle psychic structure of the mind is described in the scriptures. A person's heart, the heart area, it's not this organ that contracts, but it's a subtle, invisible level. In this area, right here is the center of the mind, and there is also the center of our life. There is the soul, right here. In the center of the chest, it's right here. The soul is right here. You might ask, maybe it's here? No, it's right here. You can even feel it in yourself. The soul is right here, and love is also here. Love, when a person loves, love comes out from here. This is also where a person's fate is located. Fate also acts through this place. And that's why the song goes, heart, you don't want peace. Heart, how good it is to live in this world. Heart, how good it is that you are like this. Thank you, heart, for being able to love so much. Love is located in the heart, but modern philosophy often says that love is located somewhere lower. Such statements change the very concept of love. They say if it doesn't work down there lower, then there's no love. That's what they claim. And I say, and ancient scriptures say that love is located in the heart, and everything that is located lower in the body depends on the heart. If people have a heartfelt relationship with each other, then everything else will work out too. The most important thing is that everything should be all right in the heart, right here. So there is an invisible thread between people. It can get clogged. And in general, fate has 3 circles, 3 spheres, so to speak. There are inner spheres, my feelings towards someone. There is a relationship between us. A thread will tie between you and me. There is a relationship between me and you. And there are relationships inside a person. And all this is called fate. Moreover, sometimes my fate cools down towards a person in my heart. Sometimes my fate makes it so that in their heart it cools down towards me. And sometimes it happens that there is no contact between us. Although there is something in my heart and in their heart too, but it doesn't work out between us. We kind of love each other, but it doesn't work out between us. That means that all these 3 circles of fate can be damaged in a person's life, and they can also be overcome. But victory over fate always goes only in a certain sequence. Unfortunately, it's exactly the opposite of what we would like it to be. Let's say we see that a close person has started to treat me worse. I want to immediately change their attitude towards me in their heart through speech, and this is a false path, and it leads to scandals, conflicts, and difficulties because this path is wrong. First, you need to use inner strength, which we will talk about later, to achieve a feeling in your heart that everything will be fine in the relationship, everything will be fine with us. Then, by praying or thinking about God or doing good deeds, set myself up for the fact that the relationship will be good and feel that really I think better of the person. I have forgiven them. I can talk to them because before it was simply unbearable to even remember this person. And only after that should you change their heart with words, or better yet, not with words but with actions, because it's best to speak words when everything is already good. If things are bad between us, it's better to be silent altogether, because words in this case only destroy relationships, because words when used in incorrect relationships only spoil them. That means that relationships are in the heart, not in words. We think, now I'll talk and fix everything. This is impossible. Some kind of relationship has already existed between you for a long time. It's not easy to overcome them. They have been existing in your life for a long time. Therefore, there are 3 stages. First, I overcome fate in my heart, then between us, and only then in the heart of a close person. You need to know these things. We make such a statement that before a person can overcome fate, they need to know something. That means there are certain things that can't be solved without knowledge. That means knowledge is needed, and knowledge begins with some basics. For example, if a person tries to speak a foreign language right away, they understand that they need knowledge first. You have to study the letters of this language, then words, then study how the language is structured, and only then learn the language itself. So there is a language of fate. That means a person has a subtle energy body. It's called manas or mind. We live in it. It's surrounded by two more structures, one of which regulates our life and overcomes fate. This structure is called intelligence. Sometimes it's active, sometimes passive, but people have it. In animals, intelligence is dormant, it cannot function. In humans, it can be activated, although in some people it's also dormant. There is another structure called self-esteem. Self-esteem is essentially my understanding of myself. That means a person should never be either enchanted or disillusioned with themselves. A person's self-esteem should always be directed towards my actions in relation to others. Evaluation, self-evaluation. Now, modern psychology often says, well, love yourself. Love yourself, you see, it's simply impossible to love yourself. A person can only love their actions or not love them. That means love is never applied to oneself. It always applies to someone else. And the evaluation of me from within is also not my evaluation. In fact, in a person's heart, there is a representation of God which is called conscience, and it is conscience that evaluates us. If I did a good deed, then conscience tells me, well done. And then self-esteem falls into place, I feel good. If I do a bad deed, conscience says, you did a really bad thing, and then I don't feel very good in my heart. And if I start to justify myself, then self-esteem is completely lost. That means I can't understand it, so I start to cheat. That means I lose myself, I become two-faced. That means I treat myself one way, but pretend to be completely different, and everyone around becomes disgusted. People can't live with this. When you pretend this way, dishonestly relate to your actions to what you do in life, a person loses themselves in this way. Thus, loving yourself means always evaluating correctly what you do. If you did something bad, repent. If you did something good, rejoice. And then a person's inner dignity works correctly. And this is called true self-esteem. There is also false self-esteem. Mainly a person falls under the influence of false self-esteem as a result of some serious mistakes in life or as a result of fear. And false self-esteem tunes a person to live selfishly, while true self-esteem always tunes a person to give their life to others. And the Vedas say that fate has only two directions. One direction, I give my life to others and then I'm happy. And the second direction, I try to live my life for myself and then I'm unhappy. That means a person wants to live, wants to eat, wants to breathe, wants warmth, wants to sleep, wants children, wants a wife, and all this tunes a person to live selfishly. You see, life itself forces us to fall under the influence of false self-esteem, in which I begin to fight for my existence. False self-esteem tries to make everyone serve me, and this causes protest in the environment. If I try, even a little bit, to make you serve me during the lecture, it will be disgusting for you to listen to me. So I must try my best to serve you during the lecture, and then it will be pleasant. There are only two options. If I set myself up correctly, it will be pleasant to listen to the lecture. If incorrectly, unpleasant. That's it. There are no other options. But if, let's say, I want to be popular, I want money from you strongly, or something else, then it will be very difficult for me to set myself up correctly. As a result, you will feel that something is wrong, and you won't have the inspiration to listen. A person who gives a lecture should want only one thing, for joy to arise in people's hearts, for them to feel knowledge and be happy about it. But for this, I must overcome the desire within myself, because every person constantly wants something, and every desire interferes with the process of giving selflessly. And this struggle inside a person is called life. That means every person always wants something from each other. For example, let's take the relationship between husband and wife, how self-esteem works in these relationships, and we always want happiness very strongly from a close person. This desire for happiness from a close person always puts pressure on them. But if I do something for them without any reason, it always relaxes and pleases them. You see, love exists, there is love between people. But whenever I try to take this love by force for myself, let's say a girl wants to be with a gentle, tender person who says tender words, right? And when she asks him for this, it puts pressure on him. And when under pressure, it's impossible to say tender words. And a man wants a woman to look at him as the leader, the winner, a worthy person. But she looks at him according to his actions. And he doesn't agree, he doesn't like it because he doesn't feel happiness from this, and so on. We have expectations from each other. This is the activity of the false ego. But knowledge should be above expectations. Therefore, a person's intelligence should tell them, set yourself up to be happy with this person. Stop expecting something from them, because expectation creates tension. Start doing something good for them, and you'll say, I don't agree. That's why I give lectures, so that gradually the knowledge settles in the mind, so that everything falls into place. But we are now continuing our discussion about the subtle energy body of a person. It's important to know that there are also senses that connect us with all parts of our subtle energy body. The most powerful sense that helps a person experience happiness in life is the sense of sight. It goes directly to the mind, and it's connected to a person's fate. The sight is linked to fate, but the sense of sight doesn't overcome fate. It immerses a person in fate and deceives the person. There is another sense, the strongest one, that overcomes fate. It's called the sense of hearing. And this sense of hearing, or the ability to speak, these two senses are connected with intelligence. And when a person hears something that can change their fate, it stimulates their intelligence in this way. Intelligence is woven from knowledge, from enthusiasm, the desire to change one's fate. This is called enthusiasm, determination, when a person knows exactly how they need to live. Intelligence is woven from faith. Intelligence is woven from attention span, the ability to concentrate, to make oneself do something. Intelligence is woven from patience, humility, and so on. This is a very powerful structure that changes our lives, gives us the opportunity to change everything. The human mind constantly needs happiness, and all the organs of our body need the energy of happiness. Happiness has different shades. For example, the heart likes kindness, and when there's enough kindness, the heart works well. When life is evil, the heart starts to hurt because the heart lacks the energy of happiness. The liver likes calmness. If life is restless, cruel, the liver starts to suffer. The stomach likes peace, a pleasant state, relaxation. If life is tense, the stomach hurts. The brain likes rest, doesn't like fatigue. If a person can't rest, their brain starts to suffer, and so on. Every organ in the human body has a connection with the energy of happiness, and the mind must constantly replenish the energy of happiness in order to support our body and to maintain relationships. Relationships with every person need happiness. All people ring the bell. Give me happiness, give me happiness. Hello, how are you? This means, are you giving me happiness today or not? Everyone wants happiness, and a person must always give it out to everyone. For example, like this: I'm doing fine, glad to hear you, be happy, and so on. How can I give it out? I don't have it myself. I'm in a bad mood, leave me alone, everyone. I don't want to see anyone. We often lack happiness inside. But still, everyone asks, and all the organs, the whole body, and people around us constantly ask for happiness from us, and we don't know where to escape from all this, because we don't know where to get happiness from. Happiness may come by itself from within due to fate. It can simply come out. I'm in a good mood today. It means happiness came out by itself from within. Life is good. That's it. No problems. No need to go to a lecture. Everything is fine as it is. Or it happens that happiness doesn't come from within and only suffering comes out. Fate can act this way, and it can continue for many years. And then there is another tool for obtaining happiness, which is called intelligence. Intelligence is the thing that can find happiness. And happiness is found through faith. As the song goes, I believe in you, my dear wife. This faith protected me from the bullet in the dark night. I'm joyful. I'm calm in the deadly battle. I know you'll meet me with love, no matter what happens to me. You see, faith gives a person happiness. Bullets are flying. It's a dark night. Death is behind you. It's nearby, and you're still not afraid of it. Because you know that you're being waited for, that you're believed in, that you're loved. This is the function of intelligence, to find a source of happiness in a difficult life situation. Happiness is always found in the purpose of life. There are different goals in life. If a person believes that they will succeed, that their life goal will be achieved, then they constantly feed on happiness from this goal. But if a person feels disappointment in life, as I told the girl, you can't allow a breakdown. You can't give yourself the opportunity to be broken. When a person breaks down in life, then in this case, intelligence cannot give happiness to the body, and the person begins to languish. They lose themselves. Therefore, it's very important to know how intelligence works in order to replenish our life with happiness, using its power, and thus overcome our fate, because suffering depletes our life while happiness fills it. A person should seek happiness in life. The greatest happiness lies in the relationship with God and with holiness in one's own tradition, not in someone else's. The greatest happiness is to love nature, because nature gives a person health. Or who gives health to a person? Medicine, doctors, or the person themselves? The sun gives a person optimism, good immunity, good digestion. The sun gives a person cheerfulness, good mood, the ability to live actively, emotionality, and so on. It gives many, many things. Fresh air gives attention span, vigor, good work ability. If a person lacks fresh air, if they're not attuned with love to fresh air, they lack work ability, they get tired quickly. If a person lacks a relationship with the sun, not that we lack sun in our city, but a person lacks a relationship with the sun, then the person's immunity suffers, digestion suffers. They say they lack vitamins. They start eating vitamins. But you simply lack contact with the sun. If a person lacks contact with water, with the energy of water, they lack relationships with people. It's hard for them to communicate with everyone. They feel a lack of relationships, lack of calmness in life, lack of harmony with this world. They can't get used to the weather and climate because they lack a correct relationship with water. If a person lacks contact with the earth, then one feels tired, cannot rest, and is very tense. Earth relaxes a person, provides good sleep. What does contact with the earth mean? It means love for the earth. As the song goes, earth, my joy, sun, look at how beautiful the sun is up high. There are people who rejoice in nature. There's no bad weather in nature. And there are people who don't feel a connection with nature, which means they will be sick, because a person's health comes from the energy of nature. A human is an energetic being. Health comes from contact with nature. Without this contact, there's no health. Nature gives a person the strength to live. And therefore, a person should push themselves to go out into nature. Movement in nature fills a person. Just as batteries that give health to a person are charged, in the same way, love for people gives a person the ability to have social strength. For example, tenderness gives a woman the opportunity to get married. Girls ask me how to get married. For this, you need to treat everyone very tenderly and take care of everyone very gently. If you do this, you fill yourself with a power that then knocks some man, some guy off his feet. Girls ask, well, how to knock them off their feet? You just need to not think about it. Like a weightlifter, he doesn't think about how the barbell is designed or why it is being lifted. He just trains and lifts it. So a girl should learn to treat people tenderly. If a person, let's say, learns to respect elders, superiors, respects the collective, then he becomes very strong in raising his status in society. This comes from love for elders. And if you don't love your elders, you will never raise your status in society. If a person loves work, loves to be useful to people through their work, loves to do something for people, then such a person gains strength in their work activities. One becomes very in demand and will never be unemployed. People will always notice such a person. Come work for us. Why? Because one loves to do something good for people. Such a person will never be left without work. Thus, love for people gives a person strength in social relationships of any kind. There are simply different types of love for people, and they give different strengths to a person. And a person gets the ability to overcome fate from love for God. If a person believes in a temple, in their tradition, in something sacred, they overcome fate. Well, let's say you're put in prison, or there's no work, no wife, you're sick, dying, then you need to learn to love God, learn to pray, to have a relationship with God. This gives the power to overcome oneself. We know many stories about the lives of holy people, how they overcame fate as a result of faith. Faith pushes away obstacles in life. Many people don't know about all this that I'm talking about. They think, Dr. Torsunov is such a storyteller. He tells such interesting stories. But I'm not telling you fairy tales. I know exactly who lacks what. Because I'm learning to know this and I sense people. For example, in order to heal a person, you need to diagnose which energy the person lacks. If a person is tense, they lack the energy of the earth. Often due to tension, girls cannot conceive, which means they need the energy of the earth. If a person feels hot, they lack the energy of water. If a person cannot communicate normally with people, they also lack the energy of water and so on. To be healthy, you need to understand which element a person lacks. This is what ancient medicine says. Modern medicine cannot understand things at this level, and therefore many diseases are not even understood. Women say, Dr. Torsunov, all tests are good, hormones are working well, why can't I conceive? Because the elements of nature enable conception. The elements of water and earth give a woman the ability to conceive. She lacks either water or earth, and that's why she's infertile. And she just needs to get this element, charge the battery, and everything will work for her. Because she has examined everything else and she has no problems at the level of the physical body. And there are also diseases at the level of the subtle energy body. They are deeper. Why can't a woman get married? Because she doesn't have the power to influence people. This power is achieved by taking care of people, not by dreaming, I'm so lonely, when will I get this man? Living a dream doesn't help to get married. But when you start to act, a dream is a function of the mind. You dream, it's not an action. But when she starts to care for everyone, treats everyone tenderly, the girl becomes filled with beauty. She becomes beautiful. The more beautiful she becomes, the stronger she begins to influence. At first, she influences those she doesn't want to marry. She says, Dr. Torsunov, there are many guys, but I don't want to marry them. They seem weak. Well, okay, keep caring for everyone, keep training, and those who are suitable for you will start looking at you. What does it mean to knock someone off their feet? Does anyone have such a question? Are there such questions, ladies? Raise your hand. A man dreams of you, remembering your eyes. He falls for you. Is it clear what knock off their feet means? Therefore, a person must first understand this formula of life. We are souls. I am a soul. I have a psyche. The soul is surrounded by a psychic structure, and the psyche is surrounded by a physical body in which I live. The soul has 3 desires or 3 energies of consciousness. The soul wants to live in eternity. Every soul wants to live. There are no differences here. The soul wants to love, the second desire, and the soul wants to know, knowledge. Know that there is a strong difference between loving and knowing, because fundamentally a person's life is further built around one of these 2 desires. And life cannot be built around both of these desires simultaneously. When the soul wants to love, it receives a female subtle energy body. And this female subtle energy body begins to take the form of strong sensitivity, a strong desire for harmony, tenderness, kindness. The psyche becomes very vulnerable, striving for stability. She feels that she needs protection. Because if a person strongly wants to love, then they need a certain life organization. Someone must protect their life, otherwise there will be no harmony. Harmony has a very sensitive, fragile nature. A woman always adjusts life to this harmony. Every woman creates her own world in relationships with a man. She tells him, "Don't you understand that you can't do that?" But if he had another girlfriend, he remembers that she used to say the exact opposite. But this girl sees love and harmony this way. She always adjusts the man her own way. And the man should understand that if he doesn't want to be adjusted, then he won't be able to make her happy. A woman explains how she can be loved, how they can love each other. She has a certain understanding, and this understanding will never change during her lifetime. A man should accept and follow this process. And if the soul wants knowledge and victory, knowledge means victory over fate. Knowledge and victory go hand in hand. And therefore a person who wants this in life receives a male body that becomes strong, enduring, willful, purposeful. A woman's intelligence is woven from purity and intuition. A man's intelligence is woven from the will to win and strength, and one complements the other. What do you think? Is purity and faithfulness a person's strength or not? Is intuition a strength? It is. Some think it's not a strength. It is a strength, but it's the strength of female intelligence. And the will to win, patience, purposefulness, are these strengths of intelligence? They are strengths too, but male ones. They all are good. A man should respect intuition, purity, faithfulness. He should respect female intelligence. And a woman should respect aspiration, persistence, firmness. She should respect male intelligence. Then there will be harmony. Everyone should respect what they lack, not what they have. For instance, a man says, "Strength is the main thing. All that you're telling me is nonsense." This means there will be no harmony. Or a woman tells a man, "The main thing is that everything should be correct, but you're always rushing somewhere. This is wrong." She doesn't respect the male intelligence. This means there will be no harmony. Each person should learn to respect not what they have, but what their close person has. Try to understand how the psyche of their close person works. There are responsibilities and rights of a person in family life that destroy relationships, and there are responsibilities that create relationships. For example, you're listening to a lecture and I say, "Woman's responsibilities," and men write down their rights. He says, "Now I'll tell her about her responsibilities." This way he destroys his life. If he tells his wife, "Did you hear the lecture?" She says, "Well, yes." Now live like that. By doing this, he destroys the relationship. But if he simply fulfills his own responsibilities, then in this case he creates relationships. Or if a woman comes home after a lecture and says, "Our whole life is now changing for the better. Now I know what you should do in the family." This is incorrect thinking. One should do their own responsibilities and try to approach the responsibilities of a close person carefully. We have an exaggerated desire for our loved ones to fulfill their responsibilities towards us. Therefore, this desire needs to be restrained all the time. It shouldn't be indulged. On the contrary, one should strive to fulfill their own responsibilities. In general, a person has 2 types of desires. One type of desires one must fulfill on their own, and then they will come true. And another type of desires when one evokes them through their actions in a close person, inspiring their close person to fulfill them. For example, a woman has 2 types of desires. Which desires come first, those that I should fulfill myself or those that a close person will fulfill? What do you think? For a woman, which desires come first, those that a close person should fulfill or those that I should fulfill? For example, a man wants a woman to obey him most of all. This is the most important thing for him. But for a woman, obedience is not her responsibility. She is disobedient by her female nature. For men, attention, fall in, at ease. For women, attention, fall in, at ease, Where have you seen obedient women at all? A woman is disobedient by her nature. But if she is loved, she immediately becomes obedient. But what is love for a woman? If you look deeply into it, it means submitting to her nature. That's what love means. To deeply respect her thoughts, feelings, desires. This is how a woman perceives love for herself. Or am I saying it wrong? If I respect a woman's desires, thoughts, feelings, it means that I love her. And if I don't respect her desires, thoughts, feelings, it means I don't love her. That's how a woman thinks. Men, you didn't know about this? I'm telling you now. So know that when a man submits himself to a woman's thoughts, feelings, desires, the woman immediately begins to obey him. And if a man doesn't submit to her mood, desire, then she will never obey him. The ability to submit is the energy of a man, male energy, and he tunes his wife to this wave, and thus she becomes obedient. That's how it turns out. About responsibilities? Whose responsibilities come first? Women's. Men, who said that? Raise your hand. Raise your hand for me. We're going to talk now. Where? Who said it? Who said men's? Everyone in the hall heard it. No one is raising their hand. Did you say it? Okay, microphone. Here's the girl who's most compassionate towards me. She just saved me in a difficult situation.
Hello.
Where have you, my dear, seen gentle and tender men? When a man approaches another man, hey, hi, all right, and he pushes him. Are they gentle?
Why should a man be gentle with a woman?
Look, when a woman approaches another woman, my dear, when a man approaches another man, hi, how are you? I'm not talking about those men who are, When I was in Los Angeles with the organizer of my lecture, I put my hand on his shoulder. He suddenly says, we can't walk like this here. I say, what's wrong? I just put my hand on his shoulder. He says, it will be misunderstood. Apparently, you can't walk like that. It will be misunderstood. It turns out these are different relationships already, gentle ones between men. A man is rough by nature. A boy also runs up to his dad and bam into his knee. This is his love for dad. He loves his dad, not that he doesn't love him and hits him. He loves him, that's why he hits. That's how love manifests in a man. He's rough by nature, right? If this is so, then where does tenderness come from?
From a woman.
If a woman herself behaves tenderly, then what does the man become? Tender? Be tender with me. Where have you seen a tender man? Only if it's like in that song, goodbye, my love, goodbye. I don't know why I'm singing in a woman's voice. I don't know why. So gentle. When I was 18, I thought girls were singing. I look at the video and it turns out these are men. They have lipstick on. Such playboys. So gentle. Is that how a man should be?
Of course not.
And who should be gentle?
A woman.
A woman. Don't be gentle with me. Be tender with me. Be careful with me. Where have you seen careful men? I come home once, I turn around, and my jacket rips, and my wife says, what's wrong with you? It's impossible to stock enough clothes for you. Or I put on a sock and it tears. She says, what kind of socks do I need to buy for you then? Where have you seen careful men, my dears? Be the same as you were before. Women are always the same, but with a man something is constantly changing. Say happy silly words. Where have you seen men saying silly words? If a man says silly words, he's not needed by anyone. A man should say intelligent words. That's what attracts you. He's so smart, thank God. And if he says silly words, why would you need that? But if a woman is very well disposed towards him, he starts saying silly words to her. And then your head will be spinning with happiness because you made it all happen yourself. This is called a woman's duties. You see, ladies? This is an illusion. A man thinks that his wife should be obedient. Or a woman says, what's wrong with you? Why are you so unfaithful? But faithfulness is not a man's quality. Who should be faithful? A woman thinks, I could find someone better. Women have this idea in their heads. And she looks at her man with such an idea. What will happen next? She provokes another man's nature. As soon as she looked at him, thinking she could find someone better, a second male nature immediately starts to manifest. All men have a second surname. It's the same for all. Italian Casanova. The Italian surname of all men. If you think, I could find someone better, then he can no longer receive love from you. Because for a man to receive love from a woman, she must be faithful. If she's faithful, love flows from her to him. A man constantly lacks the energy of love, that's why he gets married. And a woman gets married because she lacks strength and stability. Her psyche is woven from love. It is constantly in motion. A woman's psyche is very mobile, and she lacks stability. That's why she gets married, because she needs some kind of support in life. She always feels uncertain, this way and that. The biggest problem for a woman in life is fear. When there's a man, even if he's not perfect, it's somehow easier. There's not as much fear anymore. There are duties of a man and there are duties of a woman. Let's now talk about the duties of a man. A woman also wants happiness from this. There are duties of a man. That's a fact, but women come second. In the first place are one's own duties, which a person doesn't want to fulfill or doesn't understand that they need to fulfill them. A woman always wants others to be tender with her. She herself should be tender with everyone. If she wants people to be tender with her, she should behave very tenderly with everyone, and everyone will be tender. But if she doesn't do this, no one will be tender. So a man's duties. A woman wants protection and support from a man, and she will be joyful and beautiful for him, and that's enough for a man. Let's ask the men now. These two qualities in his wife are enough for him. Can you imagine, ladies? She will be cheerful and beautiful. Okay, let's ask the men now. If your wife doesn't nag you, is always cheerful and beautiful, is that enough for you? Those who think it's not enough, raise your hand. What else do you want? I'm curious. Let's pass the microphone. I have a question for you. Are you married?
Yes.
What else do you want from your wife?
No, I realize that these two are enough for me.
I see. He raised his hand by accident. I was just surprised. That's why I decided to ask you. Don't fix what isn't broken. If a wife doesn't nag you and is beautiful, isn't that enough? It's quite sufficient. But there is still one desire of a man that needs to be studied very carefully. This desire is directly related to deep things that we don't understand about each other. I'll explain this topic. The idea is that there's an external part of a person's life and an internal part. And when we fall in love, we only see the external part. Let's say a woman falls in love with a man. She sees that he's strong, brave, stable, and so on. A man falls in love with a woman, sees that she's gentle, soft, affectionate, compliant. This is the external part of life. But when people live together, they always live not with the external, but with the internal part. And the inner part of a woman is as follows. A woman is internally firm, stable, unyielding, mentally strong, persistent, unrelenting, and so on. A man internally is mobile, soft, yielding, just like a woman is on the outside. If you look at a woman from the outside, she's soft, gentle, compliant, yielding. This is exactly what a man is like on the inside. A man from the outside is strong, unyielding, firm. This is exactly what a woman is like on the inside. And some will say, it can't be. And all those who say that, it means they either don't have a family or they've lived together for less than 3 years. Because if people have been living together for a long time, at least 3 years, men think, somehow I made a mistake with my wife. When I was dating her, she was so soft, compliant, and gentle, and now it's a disaster. She has a firm, unyielding character, and it's so difficult to come to an agreement with her, and nothing can be changed in her. She is what she is. It's somewhat hard. Or a woman thinks, I don't understand. I thought I was marrying such a manly man, but he's somehow all compliant, such an accommodating person, a complete pushover. Those who have felt this way about relationships, raise your hand. Did you feel it? Yes? It's something incomprehensible. How to live with this at all? So, you need to know that understanding the depth of a person is more important than knowing their surface. You need to know that, let's say, a woman actually has a very stable, unyielding, firm psyche inside. Her character traits change very slowly. And a man's psyche inside is very mobile. He can either quickly soar up or fall down. His character changes. He's this kind of person now. Then he can become completely different, much better. Or he can become much worse. A man can deteriorate. That means his character changes. His psyche is mobile inside. And therefore a woman should constantly support the man, constantly inspire him so that he moves upward. Not to constantly nag him, you're a loser. Other women have successful men, and I have a loser. Then he starts drinking. Remember the film Love and Pigeons? Their men were drinking themselves to death. Women nagged their men, and they became drunkards. You need to support, inspire a man. And a man should always try not to break a woman, not to try to correct her character, but to accept her character, to get used to her. So she is, let's say, easily offended. Every woman has her own area where she doesn't control herself. For example, some women are very easily offended, some are very lazy, some are very timid, simply afraid of everything. Some women are very emotional, they have such an emotional character. You need to talk to her calmly. Every woman has some uncontrollable zone in her psyche, in her character. There's some internal volcano, some force, and a man should treat this part of her life kindly and calmly, understanding that she can't do anything about it. Inside a woman, character is very much uncontrollable. And a man always has the possibility of defeat in life inside his character. If you start nagging him, breaking him, and not believing in him, it directs him to fall, even though he seems so strong on the outside, as if he can endure everything. But if a woman constantly suppresses him with her behavior, he begins to fall without wanting to. In this way, she curses her own fate and saws off the branch she's sitting on, and then she falls, she loses her husband. And therefore you need to know such a thing. Women should know that with their husband they need to behave in such a way as to inspire him, to give him the opportunity to be strong. This must be known. How does a wise person behave? A wise woman, although she is stronger inside, pretends to be weaker. A wise man, although he is weaker than a woman inside, he pretends to be stronger. But you should never break each other. For example, if a woman has some character flaw, she has a very emotional character. You shouldn't blame her for this because she will never change. She will always be like this in life. If you see that a man, let's say, has some weakness, some harmful character trait, some bad habit, don't break him. You have to support him. You have to say, yes, you can handle this. Everything will be fine for you. And he will cope sooner or later. Do you know why women are advised to yield not to their husband's desires, but to his views? What do you think, ladies? Why? Because it's about balance. If you are mentally stronger than a man and you don't yield to him, then what's left for him? Vodka, that's how it is. He has nothing else left. If a woman doesn't yield to a man and she's mentally stronger, the man becomes like a rooster, and he starts pecking. He can't take it anymore. Everything starts to annoy him. He simply goes crazy. This means an unwise woman. By the way, it's interesting to know specifically regarding women. The woman who considers herself smart is actually foolish. And the woman who thinks she should keep quiet, who doesn't push her thoughts too much, is actually very wise. And a woman should always know that fate will never trample her if she allows her husband to make a decision. Firstly, he will become a man as a result of this. So the man makes a decision and now let him carry it out. Isn't that great, ladies? A woman experiences great happiness when a man carries out a decision, rather than when a man says to her, "Why aren't you carrying out your decisions?" She says, "I'm a woman, why should I carry them out? I said that because I was in a bad mood. And today I think differently." And the most interesting thing is that it's true. A woman, what does she live for? For happiness, she lives for harmony. And she's not obliged to make much effort in this life. And a man lives for victory and for asceticism practice. And therefore he is obliged to work himself to death. A man is obliged to keep his word. And a woman, to some extent, is obliged, if asked gently, kindly, "Well, my dear, you promised." Okay then. If a man promised, then God himself allows to tell the man, "What? You promised?" That's how this world is arranged. Men, you shouldn't envy women. Women were born for happiness. They should be happy, satisfied. A man should conquer. Women, don't envy men. If a man wants to conquer, he says, "I said so." Let him conquer. He's a man. Don't envy him. Step aside. He said his opinion. It's good. Give him the opportunity to be a man, otherwise he will leave. Give a woman the opportunity to be a woman. If a woman wants happiness, she says, "I won't get up this morning, even though I listened to the lectures." Let her sleep, it's not a big deal. A woman was born for happiness while a man was created for asceticism practice. A man should choose this path of asceticism practice himself. Don't tell a man, "You were created for asceticism practice." Don't do this. He decides this for himself. Don't tell a woman, "You're stupid, shut up, listen to what I told you." It's a woman's choice. She decides whether to submit herself to her husband's will or not. Everyone decides these things for themselves. This is what respect is about. A woman should know that if she doesn't want to submit to her husband, she will never make a man out of him. Only a man makes a woman out of a woman, and only a woman makes a man out of a man. Indeed, this is how it works in a family. If a man doesn't treat a woman gently and tenderly, she will never be beautiful. A woman's beauty is merely a response to a man's behavior. If a man behaves incorrectly, she becomes unhappy and unattractive. If he behaves correctly, she becomes happy and beautiful. A man's strength is always only a response to a woman's behavior. If a woman gives a man the opportunity to make decisions, even those she doesn't like, it means she's making a man out of him. And for her, this is more valuable than her own decision. Men, if you see that it's outrageous to jump through hoops for such a wife, that she's simply unreasonable, wanting so much that it's simply impossible to fulfill. If you've decided this, if you felt this, then it's true. It's true, and don't get upset. It's your choice to live with a woman. If you've managed to overcome yourself and said, "Well, okay, I'll live as I can," from that moment on, she will become beautiful. This woman will give you happiness even though she's unreasonable in her desires and demands towards you. A woman wants and demands infinitely much from a man. It's impossible to stop these demands and desires. But if you've agreed to this, she will become beautiful and will love you. She will say, "You're the best person in my life. I wouldn't be able to live with anyone else." In his desire to possess and be in charge, a man has no limits. He's simply unreasonable in this matter, just completely unreasonable. If suddenly a woman thinks, "Lord, I can't live with such a person," of course it's true. But if you've agreed anyway and told yourself, "Okay, I'll accept that my man can't have limits in his desire to dominate. Then he will become a protector for you and will value and respect you. This is how his goodwill works. But most importantly, know this, ladies, if you want something, no one in this world can stop your desire, especially not your man. The most important thing is that you accept his dominance and tell him, you're older, it's all fine. He doesn't need anything else. You say, they have their own desires too. No, ladies, a man has practically no desires. He has only one desire, to be in charge. If you allow him this, then a complete balance in desires follows. You have many desires, he has only one. You tell him, yes, you're in charge, it's all fine. Ladies, you should know that this is your highest wisdom. You tell him, yes, you're in charge, but inside you have many desires, and they are not forgotten. They are not forgotten? And what to do now? If he's in charge, he'll just say no, and that's it. Don't be afraid. It's all just for show. Those women who have tried this see that it works 200% sure. If you have some desire and you've submitted to your husband, then from that moment on, he has no possibility of not fulfilling it. A man's mind simply doesn't work that way. Your desire and his demands might be opposite. Look, he says, from this day on, we're not spending money. We're saving for an apartment. You say, yes, I agree. But you had planned to buy a dress this month. But you have knowledge in your heart about how to make life right. You say, I agree not to spend money on anything. I swear I won't ask you for anything this month. You'll buy it yourself. The next day, ladies, since you have this knowledge, you know that everything at work is woven from masculine energy, and at home everything is woven from feminine energy. What wallpaper do you have on the walls? Ladies, if you have wallpaper on the walls that your husband wanted, you'll go crazy. You'll end up changing it sooner or later. That's my prediction. The wallpaper on your walls is what you want. What about your closets, mugs, beds, and everything in the house? It's as you want it, isn't it? It's true. If a woman is in a bad mood, what mood are the children in? Bad. What about the husband? Bad. What about the cockroaches? Bad. The cat? The dog? Everyone's in a bad mood. The mood in the house is feminine energy, and that's why the man walks around you in circles and says, what's the matter? You say, I'm not bothering you. Leave me alone. Don't touch me. I'm just in a bad mood. He says, what's the matter? He came home. A man rests at home surrounded by the mood and energy of love that a woman creates. He came home. He had worked hard and came home. Why does a man come home, ladies? You're surprised? He came and sat down, and he's just sitting there, the jerk, while I came and started doing something. A woman feels, it seems to her, that this is unfair. A woman works at home, my dears, and rests at work. She came to work. There are friends there. You can have a snack, chat. And if I can't have a snack, chat, and leave early, then I don't need this job. Isn't that right, ladies? If there's no one to chat with, can't have a snack, what am I supposed to do with this job? She leaves from there. That's it. I'm quitting. That's how a woman rests at work. She goes to work because she's already tired of everyone at home. She goes there to have a rest. She dresses up better so everyone would like her, and goes to rest. A man comes home, sits on the couch. It's very important for him that birds are singing around. His wife is dancing, and everything is great. Are you hungry, my dear? Let me feed you. I'm telling you about the dream of a man. In his dream, a man sees this picture. He comes home, children love him and hug him. His wife is dancing around him. What do you want, my dear? He's switching channels on TV. Idyll is all around. Everything is good. They bring him the tastiest dish that he loves the most, and most importantly, a lot of it. A man doesn't eat, he devours. He can't eat, he comes home, and his wife has a completely different picture. When a wife sees her husband, she thinks, now he'll look at me and say sweet words, and then he'll talk to me. He'll forget about his hockey, spend time with the children, go for a walk with them. Isn't that kind of picture a woman has? Aren't those your plans for your husband? He comes home and doesn't even look at her. She's in complete shock. We have our own picture regarding our personal life. But ladies, know this. If you create the mood in the family and you're subordinate to your husband, you agree with his will, then you have the right to tears directed at yourself and to a bad mood that doesn't affect anyone else. You don't have the right to anything else. If you direct your tears at your husband, that's unfair. But if the tears are directed at yourself and the bad mood doesn't affect anyone, then you sit quietly. Your husband will ask, what's the matter? Why the bad mood? I don't know. I just have too many desires. Okay, fine. I'm going to watch hockey. 3 days later, what's the matter? I don't know. Listen, how long can this go on? It's been 3 days already. A woman's desire doesn't end. It constantly flows. But for a man, everything changes quickly. He had a principle. She agrees. She's not against it. And he says, tell me, what's your desire? I won't tell. Ladies, never give out your wishes at once. If finally, after great effort, he finds out your desire, I want a dress, he won't tell you that he'll buy it. He'll leave immediately because he'll be very upset. You promised that you wouldn't buy anything this month. Now you need to prove to him that despite wanting a dress, you won't buy it. But that doesn't make the mood any better. Then this convinces the man to accomplish a feat. He sees that nothing has changed. The wife still won't buy the dress. She promised it and kept her promise. This means that I, because I'm a man, will buy her the dress myself. But ladies, please don't let him buy it on his own when he realizes this. You agree to go for a walk with him in the supermarket. God forbid he buys it himself. You'll never wear that dress. I have a subtle vision. I know which earrings suit my wife. I conducted an experiment. I went to India, found a shop. There was a huge selection of earrings. Out of all these earrings, there were several hundred types. I chose 40 that might suit her. I sent her photos of these earrings for her to see if they were suitable or not. I was extremely surprised when out of these 40, she chose only 2 pairs. I thought she would like at least 10. You understand? When I brought these 2 pairs, she found that she liked only one of them. I then realized that I could never choose anything for her by myself. It's just impossible. Men, never buy dresses and jewelry for your wife by yourself. They will all just remain unused. She will, of course, be happy, grateful, but won't wear them because it's impossible. It's fundamentally impossible. And never choose wallpaper for the apartment, dinner sets, plates. God forbid you buy these. It's terrible. All of this will just remain unused, or she'll look at it and say, oh ha. The energy of harmony in women is so subtle that it's impossible for anyone but herself to please her. Only she can buy all this and understand it. So ladies, it's guaranteed that a man will sooner or later fulfill your desires. Desires have a feminine nature. A man doesn't actually have a strong concept of desires. If he wants something, it's simply the woman herself and her love. That's what he really wants. Everything else he wants just a little bit. He doesn't have such big other desires. He has internal victories. He must earn money, gain a position in society. He must understand how to live correctly, figure everything out. He has an aspiration in life. He has aspiration, faith, hope. All desires in men are directed only towards the woman. He wants happiness from her. But a woman has specific desires in life. She wants this, that, and many other things. She wants the man to do these things for her, not herself. If she bought something for herself, it's not that great, but if her husband bought it, that's happiness. A woman wants happiness, and a man wants victory. That's how this world is arranged. If a woman betrays herself, she earns her own living. It doesn't bring much happiness. Happiness comes when the man earns. And I also want to tell you that women's money is very dangerous for men. God forbid, men, if you bought something for yourself with your wife's money. She won't be happy. She will never forget this in her life. Never. Even if she smiles, because she loves you anyway. Such is the nature of women's money. Ladies, do you agree? They agree? If you buy her something, it's easy money, and she'll forget it right away. You bought it, so what? So men, that's how everything is arranged. There's nothing you can do about it. Also, there are doomed men and blessed men. Doomed men are the ones who demand from their wives to make money. These men are doomed. There are 2 options. Either the wife gives you well-raised children, a good atmosphere at home, delicious food, all blessings, energy for development. A woman is a man's strength. She inspires him. This is an unconscious thing. A man doesn't know that his strength, his ability to win, is inside the woman. It's her desires that are embodied in him. If a man says, go to work, of course, sometimes in life it's necessary for a woman to work. Ladies, you should understand this. Sometimes it's necessary. Yesterday I gave a lecture in another city, and one woman said, I created a company. My husband and I worked together on it. Now only my husband works. I'm on maternity leave. Everything is falling apart while he's in charge. I told her, you should help him because he doesn't know how to develop this business. He will never be able to develop it, but you know how to do it. He can maintain it. She says, exactly. You should get involved and help him with this. If you don't do this, your income will suffer. You see, ladies, sometimes you still need to get involved and help. Sometimes you need money and you should work too. But if your husband says, don't overexert yourself, work as much as you can, this is a sign of his wisdom. If he doesn't say this, it means you don't respect and love him enough. When a woman has relaxed a man with her respect, he will agree for her to work less. He simply has no choice. It's very important to understand that a woman shouldn't overwork. If she overworks, it's the main cause of infertility. Indeed, infertility means a lack of energy for a woman to conceive. It is not some disorders in the functioning of female organs, as women think. When a woman is unable to conceive, it means that a woman is excessively busy. Her energy doesn't flow there. Also, a woman who is excessively busy is not capable of loving deeply and bringing happiness. Her energy is again not going where it should. Sometimes women are inherently too busy and have become accustomed to living this way. They need to switch and direct themselves towards family, otherwise the family will not develop as it should. If we talk about the nature of women in general, about how their psyche and their inner world is structured, a song explains it. My dream is quite simple. It's so kind and so pure. I want to laugh and love. I want to be loved. That's all. A man wants victories, knowledge, achievements. A woman wants to laugh, love, and to be loved. This is her main desire. She was born for this. A man was born to overcome his fate. What are the duties of a woman? A woman has two types of duties. Some duties make her happy, while other duties develop the man, giving him the opportunity to fulfill his duties. The first type of duties is simple to perform because she immediately gets a response, but it's difficult to understand. For example, the first duty is to be affectionate and gentle in the family. This requires female strength, and a woman always lacks strength. On the contrary, she wants others to be affectionate and gentle with her. She has to be affectionate, gentle, caring, faithful. She must always be faithful. She should always say happy words to her husband. Everything will be fine. She should pretend to be a little silly. A woman is not silly. She is very intuitive. She feels everything very deeply. She understands how everything should be. But she should pretend to be a little silly for happiness. You have to do it to be happy. Then, ladies, you will feel very good and comfortable. The next duty is very difficult to perform, but it gives a very strong result. You see, the first duty is not difficult to perform, but there's not enough strength for it. The second duty is really difficult to perform, but it gives a tremendous result for a woman. The second duty is that a woman should inspire her man to be strong, responsible, decisive, hardworking, reasonable, not a drunkard, but a sober person who doesn't cheat, and so on. How does a woman inspire a man to do these things? A man has two states in life, only two states. One state drags him to hell, and the other, on the contrary, elevates him. Both of these states are either punishment for a woman or a reward, one of the two. It should be known that always at first a woman receives punishment from a man, mainly in 90% of cases. A man has only two options. He can be mentally awakened or not awakened. If a man is lazy, nothing works out for him at work. He has bad habits. He constantly sits in front of the TV or plays computer games. He never takes responsibility, can't say anything coherent, doesn't care for children, constantly has thoughts about sex, and so on. He eats a lot, gets up late, goes to bed late, leads a life where he's just chilling out and that's it. This means he's not awakened. This means that the man is not awakened, and he is unlikely to be awakened on his own. It's unlikely he'll wake up, unlikely he'll become strong on his own. A man needs a war to become strong. A man can either sleep on the couch or fight, one of the two. Yes, ladies, yes. The goal of a woman's life is that she must first push the locomotive and then sit in the carriage and ride in it for the rest of her life. Sit in the carriage and ride. All women understand this. When will this day come? They all understand that this is how it should be eventually, but they don't know how to push the locomotive because it's very difficult. A man's psyche is extremely immobile. It's very hard for a man to push himself. It's even harder for someone to push him. It's extremely difficult for a man to force himself to live actively and joyfully. And if a man has started to live actively and joyfully, it always happens only in one narrow direction. He's exhausted himself at work, came home, and again entered this inert state. For a man to be active, cheerful, strong-willed, it's incredibly difficult both for the man and for the woman. Why is a man's psyche structured this way? If he really gets going and starts living correctly, it will be a huge happiness for everyone. It will be such luck for everyone, such happiness. But happiness must be earned. So God gave women knowledge in their hearts. A woman's heart or intelligence is structured in such a way that it's very close to the truth. Women feel the truth very strongly and accurately. She understands exactly that this is how one should live. A man feels the truth very weakly and not accurately. It's very difficult for him to understand that this is exactly how one should live. Many different events need to happen to convince him. But most importantly, ladies, you should understand the process of awakening the man's psyche, or pushing the train. The train needs to be pushed in the following way. You need to take care of him. When you take care of him, you pour fuel substances into him. If you take care of him, his locomotive starts to move. Externally, he becomes arrogant. He says, well, yes, according to my fate, I'm supposed to have a wife like you. And in general, I'm so naturally handsome, so neat. He quickly gets used to your care. It seems to him that everything should be this way. It seems like it doesn't give any result, but inside, in his heart, he becomes very grateful for your care. But on the outside, he becomes very arrogant and proud. There is a second side to the coin of care that women should know about. It's extremely difficult for a woman to engage in this second side of the coin herself. Most women are also not engaged. They are unable to force themselves to discipline their husband and be internally firm with him, unyielding, not talking to him. You shouldn't get angry, yell at him, or throw tantrums, but you should be firm and unyielding. In extreme cases, it may even be necessary to go live with her mom for a while if he starts cheating, drinking, or hitting her. That means he started doing things that are not good and very sinful. Sometimes maybe it's necessary to go to your mom's house and live apart, but you should never leave your husband and tell him, "I'll find someone else." A woman should do two things from a position of faithfulness. She should take care of her husband and discipline him. These two things awaken him. At the moment when you decide, "I'm probably leaving you, but you've done everything you could for him," that's when he wakes up. He says, "No, I can do everything. I won't break my vows." He awakens at the moment when it seems he will never wake up, but the woman most often doesn't understand this. She thinks, "I don't need it anymore because I'm tired of everything and I'm leaving anyway. I don't believe in you anymore." He starts to prove, to convince, "Ladies, you'd better do this earlier." It's better not to wait until you're completely exhausted. It's better to punish him earlier. Don't talk to your husband for some time. Be strict. Make him fulfill his responsibilities. You can only do this with your inner strength. If God has given you a husband who already fulfills his duties and behaves correctly, who is aspiring towards something and has no bad habits. Ladies, if that's the case, and you don't appreciate all of this in him, then you are very foolish. You shouldn't desire anything more from a man. If he's already living correctly, he's developing as a person. He's working on himself, he's working somewhere, and you want even more from him. Even more, it means that you'll simply lose the person. Then you'll be left alone with nothing. A woman's lack of understanding that everything is good also has a boundless nature. You need to stop in this desire. Now it's time to support your husband and say, "Thank you. You're a very good person. Thank you. I'm glad that you're near, that I live with you," and so on. If he's trying, he's working on himself. That's enough. But if a man lives like a couch potato, lazy, doesn't want to do anything, has bad habits, then take care of him and punish him. These are two things that need to be done. And wait, it will take a long time before he changes. He will change for sure. He will change gradually, very slowly. It will always seem to you that it's not enough. But in the end, when he changes a lot, he will overtake you, and you will get on this train and ride in it for life. He will be pulling you along, not you pulling him. But at first, the woman pulls the husband along. Some women don't agree with this. I don't agree. Then you'll end up completely alone. Now, the responsibilities of a man. A man needs to know the first and most important responsibility that men never want to accept in their life. But if a man accepts this responsibility in his life, he becomes the happiest of people. The first main responsibility is to understand that my wife lives, not me, and I'm helping her to live. I care about her life. According to the Vedas, a woman is a river and a man is the banks. If a man, God forbid, puts a dam in front of the woman's flow and says, "This is absolutely not allowed, you will never have children," but she wants them badly. It's completely forbidden, but she wants it badly. The man has put up a dam. What happens next? The river won't go anywhere. It will just keep filling up, filling up, filling up. There are two options. The first option, if the banks are steep, if the man is strong, she will overflow the dam and flow further. Despite his prohibitions, she will do what she needs to do next to him. And the second option, if the dam is higher than the banks, what will happen next? The river flows away, men. The river flows out of your life. That's how a man loses his wife. If the banks are high and strong enough, the river always erodes them at the turns. The man is already feeling bad. He's tired from work. And at this moment, when you come home exhausted from work, your wife says, "Why are you so inattentive today?" "What do you mean inattentive? I'm worn out." It's at this very moment, when you're at a turning point in your fate, she will erode you, so to speak. She will erode you not when everything is good for you, but when there's a turn. Then the river presses on the banks and starts to erode them. A man should be twice as firm at the turns, because in addition to his boss, his wife will also torment him. I'm saying this as an example. You need to understand that the river has its own life. Within this life there are children, relatives, everything that's connected to her. You take such a frail, such a small, such a beautiful, such a humble, such a gentle young wife for yourself. You don't know yet that she's completely attached to her 3 dogs. You think, "I don't need dogs, we'll live without dogs." But you don't know that a woman who's attached to dogs won't live without her dogs. She's more likely to live without you. The woman is also attached to her mother, and her mother is your mother-in-law, my dears. She won't live without her mother either, because women are naturally attached to their parents very much, and when children appear, she will be more attached to the children than to you, just so you know. You think, children are in second place, I'm in first. Nothing of the sort. Children will be in first place. She'll even tell you, come on, our children are in first place. She'll tell you the same thing. A woman gets more happiness from children than from her husband, and so on. You took as a wife such a frail person who is completely devoted to you. This is your person who understands everything. Then it turns out that there's a mother-in-law who torments you and you can't do anything about it because your wife loves her. There are dogs that poop and bark constantly and you can't do anything about it. Children appear from her who weren't there before, but suddenly they're there. A new person appears in the family and they also assert their rights. The wife always understands them more than you, and when you men argue with your wife, the children will always be on her side, and the dogs too. They will stand on the other side of the barricade and bark at you, and the children will cry looking at you, "My father is a bad man." The world is arranged so that a man has no rights in the family, except for one right, just to be wise, to give his wife the opportunity to live and to be happy. Then out of gratitude, she makes the banks of the river very happy. The energy of happiness and love always comes from the woman. That's why women caress, not men. The energy of love and happiness comes from the woman when the man allows the woman to be happy, giving the river a chance to flow. Then the woman gives all her flow to the person who is next to her. She gently washes the banks. She doesn't churn, doesn't erode them, but washes them, gives them the opportunity to be happy. The most important and difficult duty of a man is to understand that in our male life, it's the wife who lives, and I overcome fate and give the opportunity to live to children, wife, and everyone who depends on me. When I do this, I become happy, joyful, and everything in my life is good. But if a man envies a woman and says, "You don't work enough," "You're feeling too good," "The children love you too much," if he starts to envy, then there will be no happiness in his life. Neither he nor his wife will be happy. Or if he blocks the flow of the river saying, "This will never happen in our life. I don't want children." If he says so, then she won't flow anywhere. The desire will build up, and she will never be able to get rid of it in her life. So if you decide to marry a woman, give her the opportunity to have children, buy dresses, but according to your possibilities. You can say, "I will buy you a dress," she'll have peace of mind for a year. A woman will wait, but she will be calm. She will flow, because if you tell her that she will get a dress, for her it means everything is fine. You see, men, it doesn't have to be now. Yes, women, isn't that right? You see, they agree, they are like that. Men, they agree, but with difficulty. They say it's not like that, no one said that. They all kind of agree that one needs to wait, but they agree with difficulty because there's no other way out. So that means it's not like the river joyfully flowed over a pebble. It flows with difficulty, but it still flows. And if you put a dam, then it will simply flow out of your life or break this dam, your barrier. We are now talking about the deep nature of men and women. If I say the wrong thing, your life becomes dangerous, if you believe that. And if I say the right thing and you believe it, then your life is saved, because by understanding this issue, you can greatly change your life for the better. Observe and try. Who is the source of happiness in a family? Suppose you come home in a bad mood. Does it affect your wife much? To some extent it does. Well, she can keep herself busy. But if the wife is in a bad mood, everything in the house becomes gloomy, unhappy. Look at the walls, furniture in the house. Do they have masculine or feminine energy? Masculine energy is flags, cannons, and feminine energy is flowers, butterflies, and so on. Today we will also discuss another topic. We are going to talk about love. What is love? How is it structured? What kind of power is that? Why do we suffer from it? And now we are talking about the responsibilities of men and women. I'd like to say a few more words about the responsibilities of a man. So, the most important duty of a man is to realize that he needs to live for his wife. You have victories in life and that's it. But you have to let your wife live and let her have her faults, such as capriciousness, different emotions, and so on. Let her be a woman, let her open up. It means she shouldn't be so uptight, so reserved in her feelings, desires, emotions. For example, a woman says, "I want to ask you something." You should say, yes, I'm listening to you, my dear, but not like, "Oh, you have another stupid question." The topic of relationships is very important for a woman. It's very important for her that if she has a question, her husband understands that this question is also important and valuable, meaning to allow the river to flow. So if she has such a desire, you need to pay serious attention to it. Often men come home and are not interested in their wife's desires. There's her body, he enjoys her body, there are children, he loves them. Often a man is not interested in what kind of person lives inside this body, what desires and needs she has. He thinks that the woman also likes to enjoy being with him. Let's say a man hugs a woman, but for her it is more important how he treats her than how he touches her. Therefore, first establish a good relationship with your wife. Prove to her that you need her, that you live for her. Then from that moment she will give back and will be grateful. The next duty of a man is protection. There are two things that a man should protect his wife from. First, he should protect her from poverty and some dangers in life. And second, he should protect her from excessive desires. Moreover, protection from poverty is a constant thing. This means that you need to constantly give the woman the assurance that everything will be okay. Another thing you need to know, women have one problem. They can't stop their desires. You won't be able to stop them either, but you will be able to manage them. Well, you can easily do this. As there is such a children's joke called "you don't want to, whatever." For example, "Do you want ice cream? You don't want to, whatever." Well, a student is walking with a girlfriend, and he has no money at all, only 3 pence in total. She can't answer right away, she's thinking. Then he says, "Do you want candy? You don't want to, whatever. Do you want some lemonade?" I want. Why are you shouting? I'll get it for you now. Here's your lemonade. The idea is that a man should not reject the desires that a woman has, even if they are unrealizable. He should lead his wife to a desire that can be easily fulfilled. In this case, it is important that the wife starts having this desire, something that can be fulfilled. Since she wants a lot of things all the time, the man risks ending up having to work 3 shifts. Suppose you say, "Dr. Torsunov, you said that a wife must live in a 3-bedroom apartment because it's her main desire. But for this 3-bedroom apartment, I need to work 3 shifts for 5 years. You see, this means that in 5 years you will already be disabled. And therefore a man cannot fulfill all female desires just like that in one go. You need to understand that there are desires that need to be stretched out. Such desires as an apartment or a washing machine with all functions, including loading laundry, ironing laundry, taking it out, hanging it up, a new American model. It might cost more than your apartment, and this can be a difficult thing to achieve in your life. You tell your wife, "We'll definitely buy it, but don't say when. This will be very dangerous." Well, in other words, you need to protect your wife by giving her opportunities to live, and on the other hand, you need to calm her in her desires so that she doesn't burn out in them. And also you shouldn't allow too much. For example, if you foolishly decided to buy her jewelry for her birthday that costs your annual salary, then know that she will never agree to less in her life again. You see, a woman's psyche is structured in such a way that she doesn't care how much you will earn for this. But if you bought her such jewelry once in her life, then if you buy some cheaper or less beautiful jewelry later, she will never accept it. That means if a man has raised the standard of care, he must already understand that it is now impossible for him to retreat in any way, because a woman never retreats in her standards of accepting care. Am I saying something wrong, women? They don't know, okay? It is a man's duty to protect his wife from her worries. The woman has a very restless mind. It constantly wants something, is constantly dissatisfied with something. A woman's mood constantly changes. It cannot be stable, and a man should always tell her, "Everything will be fine, my dear." This means that a man must constantly soothe a woman because she is restless all the time. That's the nature of the female psyche. He must constantly reassure her it's his responsibility, especially if a man is able to build a good relationship with his mother-in-law that makes him a truly admirable man. She truly values this. Often men are not very engaged in their family responsibilities, which is a mistake. A woman can be like a snake. She tolerates things, but eventually she strikes. It's best not to wait for that moment. Unfortunately, most divorces in this world happen because of women, not men. This is due to natural differences. By nature, a man doesn't inherently understand family relationships. It's simply not intuitive for him. He understands how to overcome his fate. He can be good at his work, but he doesn't understand relationships with women. Therefore, men need guidance in these matters. They are difficult to teach because they don't see why they should jump through hoops for their wives. So the third part of our program will be devoted to a slightly different topic, which may seem unclear to you at first. But this topic is vital for everyone because everyone should know how to overcome their fate. Shall we study this? Our fate is located here in the heart and lives in the memory of oneself. Every person constantly remembers themselves every second of life. When fate becomes heavy and unbearable, this memory turns into pain. A person can't even sleep or eat. They constantly think about their life. The Vedas explain that if a person carefully listens to someone who has forgotten about themselves and thinks about God, prays, and lives in prayer, when a person carefully listens to someone who thinks about something inspiring, about something that gives strength, at this time the person who is burdened by fate also receives strength, because through this shared memory, happiness or strength enter a person's life. For example, now I will turn an Orthodox prayer where people are praying. People are singing about God and glorifying the Mother of God. It's a prayer. As I begin to listen with all my might to how they sing, I immerse myself in their spirit, and I repeat. Since everyone here has different faiths, I simply repeat the attitude that helps tune our sense of self-esteem. This attitude is called, I wish happiness to everyone. I simply repeat, I wish happiness to everyone, in the mood in which this prayer flows. When I forget about myself and become fully immersed in the mood of this prayer, at this moment, the power that overcomes fate will start to enter my heart from those who sing. The first stage, calmness, will fill my heart, and I will feel good and light. The second stage, the source of suffering, will gradually weaken. I will not perceive it as strongly as before. And at the third stage, which of course won't come immediately, the source will stop tormenting me altogether. In this way, you can overcome fate through prayer. For example, let's say a person is destined to go to prison. The first stage, everything will be fine. The second stage, influence, means the person gives testimony and people, investigators, prosecutors, and so on, are on their side. At the second stage, they are respected very much. At the third stage, their perception of the person changes, and they either give a suspended sentence or a much lighter one, depending on the severity of the crime. This is how a person can overcome fate with the help of prayer. This is how it all happens. How does a miracle arise in this life? Through listening. Try to tune in not to yourself, not to your memory, not the memory of yourself, but to tune into the memory of those who pray. Repeat, I wish happiness to everyone, continuously in the mood of those who are singing. This is not a simple task. This is the most difficult thing I've told you now, to learn to do this in life. Now I'll show you different types of repetitions. Look here. One option is emotional repetition, which doesn't overcome fate, but simply improves mood. For example, I turn them on and I wish happiness to everyone and don't listen to them at all. I'm just enjoying life and saying happiness to all of you. This emotional repetition improves mood, but doesn't overcome fate. If I am in a good mood, I pass it on. If it's negative, it means I will transmit negativity. The second option is mental repetition, or repetition within your own fate. I wish happiness to everyone. That means I am inside myself and pushing something of my own there. It's clear that I'm not listening to anything. Because only through listening can one gain the intelligence that overcomes fate. Now observe, I listen to them and repeat in their mood. The first thing I do is I believe that they will help me, because I have trouble in my life. I believe that those who pray to God will help me, and I merge with their mood. This is the first thing I do. The second stage is called support. That means I don't just connect with them, I also start to feel strength from them. I rely on their sound, and gradually, during this second phase, I distract myself from my pain, and gradually move away from the feeling that there's a crack in my life, although it really exists. In the third phase, unexpectedly for me, something seems to happen in my heart, and it opens up. At this moment, I open the gates of my fate. Or rather, this energy, the power of those who pray, opens it and flows in. At this point, one feels happiness and grace within. At this stage, a person should not lose themselves in the happiness and grace, but should instead offer, I wish happiness to everyone, from the position of this grace either to people or to God or back to those who are singing. And so through the person's heart, a stream of love begins to flow. I wish happiness to everyone, as I listen to those who pray and give back, listen and give back. During this time when my memory has forgotten about itself, it has connected with God or with those who are connected to God. The energy of God begins to dissolve my suffering and bad fate. This happens in 3 stages. The first stage, everything will be fine. The second stage is influence. I can already talk to my husband, although I was deeply offended by him. In the third stage, he changes his attitude towards me and comes back, though it seems like a fairy tale now. Let's try, let's practice. I have a lot of experience. Every week, once a week when I'm at home, I practice with a big team of people who work with me. We train together for 2 hours every Sunday. We do this. We turn on the voice of the elder who is praying in the recording, and we start repeating the prayer alongside them. At home, you don't need to repeat, I wish happiness to everyone. You repeat the prayer in your faith and play the voice of someone who prays in your faith. Remember, in prayer, it's not necessary to play someone's voice. If you can remember a transformative event that is connected with God and changed your life, if you can lovingly remember your mentor, not forget him for a second, if you can lovingly remember a holy place that saved you from death, if you can lovingly remember God, whom you feel, then you don't need to listen to anyone. However, I know for sure that most of us can't do this. As soon as an event weighs down on a person, they can no longer remember anything except their grief. This means that nothing will help them. So let's now try to listen to those who can pull us out. First, we learn to rely on someone until in our heart the memory of God or holiness grows so strong that it gives us the opportunity to rely on it even in the face of the most severe suffering. I think that our friends from the Good People Club have some kind of surprise in the form of maybe fruits, candies, or flowers. Yes or no? Did you bring flowers?
Yes, we just have candies. We handed them out at the entrance.
You didn't do it quite right, my dears. The idea is for me to distribute candies to everyone. Are there flowers? After the lecture, I will give out flowers. Come up, and I'll give flowers to everyone. There are also balloons. I will hand them out too. Good. To learn more on the subject of health and healing of the body, please make sure to read my health guide, available for download on my YouTube channel or on my Instagram page. Thank you very much, and see you soon.